Jai Hind and welcome to Team MND, the Futurists. We regret for a gap of a couple of days as I could not resume to my videos because of my injury. Now today's update is on Taiwoor, Hussain Rana and his deeply intertwined relationship with David Coleman Headley and their alleged involvement with Pakistan's Inter-Services Intelligence, that's ISI, and the broader political dynamics within Pakistan that shaped their actions. Now, Headley allies Dawood Gilani struck a bargain with the United States authorities, buying freedom from extradition to India in return for pleading guilty to all charges brought against him and cooperating with the prosecutors. Now, he had been on the radar of the investigators for long, and his ties with the Lashkar-e were likely known to United States officials according to investigating reporting on his role. Now we will cover a detailed exploration of these connections, weaving together their personal ties, ISI's role, and even Pakistan's internal political alignments at this time. Also note, this is going to be in series if we find traction in the video. This is the first episode giving details of their relationship. Now, while Taiwoor Hussain Rana is in the custody of National Investigation Agency, that's NIA, in New Delhi, his closest collaborator during the 2008 Mumbai terrorist attack, David Coleman Headley alias Dawood Gilani, is serving time in prison in the United States. Now, Rana and Headley's bond began in the 1970s at Cadet College Hassan Abdul, an elite military prep school in Pakistan, where they forged a lifelong friendship rooted in shared experiences and privilege. Both from relatively affluent backgrounds, Rana, a Muslim Rajput from Punjab, Headley, born Dawood Saeed Gilani, the son of a Pakistani father and American mother, their paths diverged but reconverged in ways that facilitated terrorism. Now, what was their personal and professional, collaboration? By 2000s, Rana had settled in Chicago, running First World Immigration Service, while Headley, a former DEA informant turned LET operative, he leveraged their friendship for operational cover. Now, Rana provided Headley with a veneer of legitimacy, allowing him to open a Mumbai branch of his immigration firm in 2006 to again mask the reckoner for the 2008 Mumbai attacks. Now, Headley's testimony revealed Rana's active support, including securing a 5-year multiple entry Indian visa and approving the Mumbai office setup. Now, their communication was extensive. Indian authorities documented 231 calls between them during Headley's 8 India visits from 2006 to 2008, with 66 calls during the final reckoner. Now, ideological alignment and trust. Headley's 2006 deposition in a Mumbai court underscored Rana's awarenesses of LET's terrorist aims. Now, Rana allegedly knew Headley trained at LET camp and supported his mission, even praising the Mumbai attackers post 26/11, reportedly saying the victims deserved it and suggesting the dead terrorists deserved Pakistan's Nishan-e-Haider award. Now, this certainly suggests a shared ideological commitment, though Rana defense claimed he believed Headley worked for the ISI, implying he saw it as state sanction. Now, their trust enabled fluid coordination, with Rana acting as a kind of logistical backbone while Headley conducted the field work or a dirty work. Now, beyond Mumbai, their collaboration even extended to a foiled 2009 plot against Denmark's newspaper, where Rana again facilitated Headley's travel and provided business cards to access the newspaper's offices, showing their partnership was not just limited to India. Now, this mutual reliance highlights how personal loyalty amplified their operational impact. There certainly deeper details on ISI involvement were always part of it. They have always been aligned with this collaboration. The ISI's alleged role in Mumbai attacks with Rana and Headley as conduits points to a complex nexus between Pakistan's intelligence apparatus and LET. Now, Indian and United States investigations, bolstered by Headley's testimony, suggest the ISI provided strategic and material support, though Pakistan officially denies this as always. What have been the key ISI operatives? Headley named two ISI officers, Major Iqbal alias Chaudhry Khan and Major Samir Ali, as handlers. Now, Major Iqbal, described as serving ISI officer Iqbal, allegedly financed and even directed Headley's reconnaissance, providing $25,000 to establish the Mumbai office and even guiding target selection. Headley's 20 plus email exchanges with Iqbal included discussions on exploiting local contacts like Raja Ram Rege, a Shiv Sena member, for cover. Rana was reportedly in contact with Iqbal, with Headley offering to help Rana, an army deserter, through Iqbal's influence. Now, the 2010 United States indictment charged Iqbal with aiding terrorism but even avoided explicitly naming the ISI, reflecting diplomatic sensitivities. Then we talk about Major Samir Ali. Now, this individual oversaw the attacks from a Karachi control room in real time, coordinating with LAT's Zaki ur Rahman, and Interpol's Red Notice lists Ali as a Lahore-born operative fluent in Urdu, Hindi and English. But Pakistan denies his existence, again calling him fictitious. Now, Rana's interrogation may clarify Ali's role, as Indian authorities believe the linked Rana to the broader plot. Certainly, there have been operational support. The ISI allegedly trained Headley in many activities and techniques enabling his Mumbai missions. LET's Hafiz Saeed and Lakhvi both have historical ISI ties. They were key planners, and agency reportedly ensured deniability by having Headley meet Iqbal and Sajid Mir, who's an LET recruiter with ISI links. Now, Rana's immigration firm served as a front, possibly with ISI knowledge, given his army background and Headley claim of offering Iqbal help. Now, Indian agencies tracked Rana pre-attack travels across Delhi, Agra, Kochi, Ahmedabad and even Mumbai, suggesting he scouted additional targets potentially under ISI direction. Post-attack cover-up, when we talk about, after 26/11, Pakistan's Federal Investigation Agency reportedly raided the Karachi control room, and Lakhvi's arrest in Muzaffarabad was seen as a symbolic, with key figures like Jundal escaping. This aligns with allegations that the ISI shielded operatives, as neither Iqbal nor Ali faced any prosecution despite United States evidences like emails and intercepts. Former Home Secretary G.K. Pillai alleged Headley was a double agent for the CIA and even ISI, suggesting United States complicity in shielding him, which again complicated the ISI narrative. While unproven, this reflects suspicions that the ISI leveraged Headley's Western identity for global reach, with Rana as a facilitator. Now, internal political alignment, when we talk about in Pakistan's political landscape in mid-2000 marked by military dominance and fragile civilian governance shaped the environment in which Rana Headley, and the ISI operated. The Mumbai attacks occurred under President Asif Ali Zardari's PPP government, but the military and ISI held significant sway, creating a dual power structure. What has been the military ISI nexus? General Pervez Musharraf's regime 1999 to 2008 had strengthened the ISI autonomy, and even after his resignation in August 2008, the agency operated with little civilian oversight. Now, the ISI's history of supporting jihadis groups like LET for proxy wars in Kashmir and Afghanistan persisted despite Pakistan's alliance with the US post 9/11. LET's Hafiz Saeed enjoyed relative freedom with his Jamaat-e-ud-Dawa LET's front operating openly, reflecting Tekit state tolerance. Rana, a former army officer, and Headley, with ISI handlers like, benefited from this entire ecosystem where military intelligence saw terrorism as a strategic tool against India. There have been civilian weaknesses. Zardari's government, grappling with economic crisis and militancy, lacked the clout to curb the ISI. The 2008 Mumbai attacks strained India-Pakistan ties, but Pakistan's denials of state involvement, dismissing figures like Major Ali as fictitious, aligned with the military's narrative of blaming non-state actors. This reflects a political alignment where civilian leaders avoided confronting the military, fearing backlash or instability. There have been certainly internal divisions. The military support for select militant groups coexisted with domestic anti-terror operations against the Pakistani Taliban, creating a contradictory policies. Now, LET's focus on India shielded it from crackdowns, unlike groups attacking Pakistan itself. Rana and Headley's profiles, educated, cosmopolitan, and tied to the military establishment, it certainly fit the ISI's use of elite operators for external missions, insulated from domestic scrutiny. Anti-India sentiment fueled by Kashmir and historical rivalry provided fertile ground for these elites' ideology. The ISI's alleged role in 2611 aligned with nationalist factions within the military who viewed India as a primary threat, even as Pakistan faced US pressures to combat terrorism. Now, Rana post-attack comments, if accurate, echo this mindset, framing the attacks as justified retaliation. Post-attack dynamics, when we talk about the attacks, exposed Pakistani's internal fault lines. Civilian leaders promised cooperation with India, but the military's influence stalled LET prosecutions. Lakhvi's 2009 arrest was also cosmetic, and Saeed remained untouchable, highlighting that ISI's leverage. Now, Rana's extradition in 2025 has reignited debates in Pakistan, with some posts on social media claiming he was an ISI officer, though these lack any kind of corroboration and reflect speculation rather than any evidences. Rana and Headley's relationship was the kind of linchpin for operational success, blending personal trust with terrorist intent. Rana's logistical support, visas, cover businesses, and travel enabled Headley's reconnaissance, while their frequent communication ensured correct alignment. The ISI's alleged involvement amplified their impact, providing training, funds, and direction through figures like Major Iqbal and Samir Ali, though Pakistan's denial and United States indictments caution reflect diplomatic complexities. Within Pakistan, the military ISI nexus dominated, sidelining civilian oversight and fostering an environment where LET thrived as a proxy against India. This alignment shielded operatives like Rana and Headley, whose elite backgrounds made them ideal for this kind of transnational plots. Now, Rana's ongoing interrogation may clarify these links, but the interplay of personal loyalty, intelligence, backing, and political cover remains central to the 2611 narrative. Tahawal ur Hussain Rana, now in a Delhi jail after his April 9, 2025 extradition, faces a dramatic moment. His close friendship with David fueled the deadly 2008 Mumbai attack, their bond hiding dark plans. Hints of ISI agents like Major Iqbal and Samir Ali suggest secret state support, though Pakistan denies it. In a country split between strong military and weak leaders, Rana's clean image as a Chicago businessman hid his true role as India's NIA digs for answers that could expose LET's ties to the ISI. Rana's next move is key. Will he reveal the truth behind the attacks to keep his secrets about Headley, his beliefs, and even hidden forces buried forever, leaving the story unfinished? Do let us know your thoughts in our comment section. If you find the traction, we'll certainly make more videos on this collaboration. If you want this subject to be covered in series, what next are you looking for? Do let us know that also in our comment section. Thank you for watching it. Thank you for your time. Do share and subscribe to our channel. Jai Hind and Jai Bharat.